Hello and welcome back. Sorry it's been so long. I feel like I don't remember how to use this computer anymore because it's been a while. This is a weird time of day for me to do this, but it is going to be recorded on YouTube. So if you've submitted your music and you are not able to be here at this time, you can always watch it after and see what my stupid analogies towards your music are. Okay, cool. Let's get started. Hello, Crazy Cat 24. Let's check out Aiden Dodge's track called Will You Ever Know? I haven't listened to new music in forever, so this is exciting. Here we go.
I know it's been quite a while, but I've been too afraid to reconcile with you. And I've been running all the extra miles just to get you off my mind, but I can't leave you behind. And I hope you know that I think that he's lucky he's your man. And you deserve somebody who can give you what I can. And don't you worry about me, I'll do just fine on my own. Cause you deserve to have mutual love, but will you ever know? Girl, will you ever know?
Okay, the first thing that caught me off guard was the vocals just kind of came out of nowhere. Let me move my camera a little bit. Hold on. There. Now I can be more centered.
I know it's...
You know, I don't like to overuse things, but a little reverse reverb into the vocal, reverse swell can be subtle. Just something, because like there's not a whole lot of rhythm. There's kind of no rhythm happening, and then the vocals just kind of like bam, right up in your face, right? So just a little bit of something to let us know that there's about to be something happening, I think would be nice. Usually I would reach for sending the vocals through a reverb chain. I mean, I could even probably do it if I go like this. I mean, it's going to be more than just the vocals, obviously. It's going to be the whole track. But if I send it through some reverb and then I record the output, if I can remember my alphabetical order, there we go. So I'm going to send this through and I'm going to record the output. So we'll go like this. I'll turn it down a little bit. Okay. So ideally you would do that with probably just the vocals, right? But I can't do that. Anyway, let's try that now. Now I turn the reverb and the recording off and I reverse this, and let's see if this makes it just a little bit smoother into the vocal.
I know it's been...
It's like too subtle right now.
I know it's been quite a while.
I mean, it's kind of subtle in this situation, but I think it's mostly because I don't have the vocals isolated.
I know it's been quite...
But that's the idea. It's a pretty common thing to do, and it can be subtle, and it leads nicely into the vocal because you built it out of the vocal. So if you send just that very first kind of syllable of the vocal, boom, into a reverb, let it tail out, record that tail, reverse it, and then that fades into the vocal. That could be a way of doing it, or maybe just a little reverse cymbal. It doesn't have to be crazy, just enough to kind of smooth out like the, wow, there's vocals here now.
Mutual love, but will you ever know? Girl, will you ever know the feelings I used to hold? Cause I lost all control.
I like the chords and I like the vocals, but I don't like that piano thing. It's too like chaotic or like noisy. Like it's dense and I don't find it particularly pleasing sounding.
I've lost all control over what I can't keep on told. And for far too long I've been chasing so much time I've wasted, trying to find reasons to stay mad at you. Will you ever know? Girl, will you ever know that?
Yeah, that's kind of why I prefaced it with like, I don't want to always use the same tricks. So, you know, you don't want to always use the same thing, but like it's a pretty it doesn't, like, stand out when you do it. It's not like, "Oh, he used that thing again." It kind of sounds, like, a bit natural, so I think you can kinda get away with using it quite often. But yeah, this kinda drop section, chorus section, I don't think the piano is a good choice, at least in its current form, because it takes up so much room in the mix, and it's dense, and it's in the way of the vocals, and it's just a lot to listen to, I think.
Feelings I used to hold. Life goes on, but you've still been all on my brain. And I'm long gone, but I still endure all this pain. Trying to keep my fire, then we're running through the rain. To find somebody who can help me smile again. And I'm glad you're happy with somebody, even if that somebody isn't me. It's not me. I still want you all over my body, but I would rather let you be free. Can't I find somebody to replace you and take away your place in my heart? Girl, you got me deep inside my feelings, and this is only just a start. I can't get you off my mind, and I can't leave it all behind, and I wish I could hit rewind so that I could have a second chance. I can't get you out my head, and I just want you in my bed, and I don't.
Yeah, again, I think the piano is really holding this track back. I would, like, try to figure out a different sound, a different instrument to use, or a different piano or something, but it's just at no point in this song was I listening to the piano and being like, "Hell yeah, I love that piano." It's kind of the opposite.
Be the way it ends, but will you ever know? But will you ever know the feelings I used to hold? Cause I've lost all control. I've lost all control over what I can't keep on told. And for far too long I've been chasing so much time I've wasted, trying to find reasons to stay mad at you. But will you ever know? Girl, will you ever know the feelings I used to hold?
Yeah, I'm like, I wouldn't even turn it down. I would just get rid of it. I think turning it down is going to be kind of a compromise or like a half measure. And I get the idea. It's kind of like a disclosure, kind of housey piano stabby thing, but I just don't think it works. I think something a bit more slick, a little bit more like modern sounding or something would go well. And I agree with Katia that you need something that supports the vocal. This kind of just like steps on the vocal, right? But the track itself, the groove and the melodies and the chord progression, it's all good. It's just really, I think my main note is just that piano is just, I would at least try to take the piano out altogether. I almost think the track would be better with nothing instead of the piano. But then maybe play with some synths or something that are a bit less dense in like the low mid range, kind of like that piano is just like, it's just like a chunk of like thickness in the track that is fighting everything. It almost sounds like it's hitting the limiter, or it's maybe being compressed overly on the track level. But I don't know. That's what I would do. I would try to substitute something for that piano, and then go from there. Cool. All right, let's move on. We got Zorro Riot dubstep. Okay. So I love the notes that are being played, but the sound is so kind of scooped or something. It kind of feels like I have water in my ears. Okay, so this is actually pretty sick. I like the sound design, but the biggest problem right now is the drums are just underneath the sound design. It's like the whole track is sound design. There needs to be more side chaining. I would probably take all of your crazy wubs, send them into a single bus, uh, and then side chain that bus instead of side chaining them all individually. But if you put them all into a bus, then you could do some squishing. You could do some multi-band compression. You could do some single band compression. You could do some wave shaping, maybe clip off the tops, because the tracks kind of like poke, or not the tracks, the individual sounds kind of poke. Some of them are like really loud, some of them aren't as loud. So if you take them all, send them into a bus, compress them together with one of many options, and then sidechain that's going to make it a lot easier to get the balance between the drums and the wubs a bit better, because right now it's just like the wubs are just overpowering the drums, and the drums really should cut through. I also agree with Ice Kaib about the fact that there was like no build up. But I think the bigger problem is like I like the harpsichord stuff, but it's just sonically it's a little off-putting, because it's like it just feels like the mids are scooped out. It's very hyped in the top end, and I don't know. There's something weird going on with the harpsichord part. Do you see what I mean though? Like that G G G G is not very loud, but then like this, that is not very loud, but then that is like super loud. So yeah, bussing all your wubs together can sometimes help with that. It's a little easier than trying to get the tracks all to sound. You could do it without bussing them, but with this style of music, I would probably take all those wubs, send it into a single bus, and like put a wave shaper on it, and just where's wave shaper? There we go. And just kind of like, I'd probably have something like this, and then I'd move this point around until it sounded right. And then no matter what happens on the input, you're not going to get those really loud instruments poking through, and then other ones not so loud. Just a little easier to get it to sit right like that. All right, let's keep. It almost feels like there's either no side chaining or very little side chaining, especially on the snare. The snare is just kind of like, I know it's there because I know it should be there and I can hear it a little bit. But the snare should really be, everything should be ducking so that like, because the kick and the snare is what is telling people to nod their head at a certain rate, right? So you got to have that cut through the mix. Oh my God. I don't know which Ibanez that is. Yes, it is an SR500. You are correct. I don't know the numbers. I also have a. Hold on one sec. This is my favorite Ibanez. It's the GR707. Or is this a G? The pedal is the 707. No, the guitar is a 707. I also have the pedal that goes along with this, which is basically a Juno synth that gets controlled by this big proprietary 32-pin connector or whatever the hell it is. Yeah, that's my favorite Ibanez. But also I think the Casio, this one. This is a Casio MG510. It has a MIDI output, and I'm pretty sure it's made by Ibanez as well. It's I actually like it just as a guitar. The MIDI output is pretty. I sold 50 of those. Wow. Yeah. Anyway, they don't get a whole lot of use these days, unfortunately. But if I ever have to slap at a bass, I actually usually use my bass ukulele. Anyway. Yeah, okay, so I think I've got a few notes. The first is the weird scoopiness of the harpsichord. That's okay, we already talked about that. The second is that a garage door? What? The second is the side chaining, the wubs and the drums are not balanced properly. The drums need to cut through the wubs heavier and harder. And the wubs aren't all kind of in the same loudness range. Some of them are very loud, some of them are not quite as loud, so I'd bust them together. The next thing is the track doesn't really flow that well. It kind of feels like here's a selection of ideas that I have in the same key and tempo. That's not to say that all the stuff that's here won't work with each other. It just doesn't really like build into the drop and then like break down into it just kind of it's like you're just introducing a new idea every 16 bars. So try to incorporate the individual ideas a bit better. Fisherman triple play. Never seen that. This, I think that might be the first, the Casio MG510 might be the first guitar with a MIDI output ever, maybe. It's really laggy. Like the only thing it's good for is like strumming a chord and having like the synth like swell up underneath of it. Because if you try to do anything with rhythm, it's like a quarter second of delay. So it's like it's not very accurate. I also have a Casio DG20, I think, like the one with the nylon strings. And it doesn't make any sound. It's just a MIDI controller. I love that thing. It's pretty cool. Anyway, those are my thoughts on this track. I think you've got some really cool sound design, and it's nasty, but the mix could be better, and the arrangement should flow. Each section should flow a little bit better into the next section instead of just like, here's an idea, here's another idea, oh, and here's another idea. Cool. All right, let's move on. Zetmo, Displace.
Roll the windows down, yeah, I love to hear the sound of the bass in my face, yeah, I like it real loud. Roll the windows down, yeah, I love to hear the sound of the bass in my face, yeah, I like it real loud. Roll the windows down, yeah, I love to hear the sound of the bass in my face, yeah, I like it real loud. Roll the windows down, yeah, I love to hear the sound of the bass in my face, yeah, I like it real loud. Roll the windows down, yeah, I love to hear the sound of the bass in my face, yeah, I like it.
Are you doing your stream?
I am.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I was just going to introduce you to Kane.
Hi, Kane.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
This is Nick.
I'm Nick.
Nick.
This
Sorry.
isn't my music, but this is.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
that's
thought
no worries.
I thought you were CTVing.
No, not right now.
We'll let you go.
Okay, bye.
Bye, Steve.
Okay, where were we? Yeah, this is pretty wild. It's a bit aggressive. I feel like there's some cool sound design stuff in there, but it's underneath like a bunch of sounds. And yes, I had some visitors. What is this sound? Cause like there's something cool underneath there, but the sound it just kind of sounds, it almost sounds like a corrupt audio file or something, you know, like I don't even know if I'd call it a Reese sound. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I like how heavy it is, but I just think that the noisy synth is taking away from it because it's not it doesn't necessarily feel like it's going to the rhythm. I feel like it's doing maybe like a triplet thing. So maybe mathematically it like makes sense somehow, but it's just so complex and noisy, and it's on top of everything else. I like the Reese sounds and stuff that are underneath of it, and I like the drums and how aggressive everything is, but that one sound just to me is like stepping all over it. What's your opinion on that one C sharp vocal note?
Loud. Roll the windows down, yeah, I love to hear the sound of the bass in my face, yeah, I like it real loud. Roll the windows down, yeah, I love to hear the
To me, she doesn't really sound like she's singing, you know? So it didn't really bother me because it kind of just sounds like "na, na, na, na." It's like a little whiny, you know, like a whiny voice thing. Yeah, I don't know. The vocal didn't bother me. It just doesn't sound like she's singing. It sounds like she's just kind of like almost like rapping or something, you know? It almost sounds like a vocal that would be on a what the fuck? I can't think of it right now. Wouldn't it be better I see? I don't know. It didn't bother me because it doesn't sound like it's supposed to be in any key. It just kind of sounds like she's like being sassy about it. I think the bigger thing is I'd like to hear this drop without the distorted fluctuating noise sound. Yeah, I can almost imagine it in my head. And I think it's better without the you could maybe at like the start of a bar, you could do like a go 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 and then get out of it and then do more of the other sound design that's a little more tonal and a little bit more controlled. I think just having that like kind of running over top of the whole thing is maybe not the move. Anyway, that's what I think. Let's move on. Thank you for sending. And yes, Swiss cheese, I know that you sent one in. I'll grab it. Okay, this one's Lewan Disco Empyrean. Wow, that was very interesting. Um, I really don't. At first I was like, man, this breakdown is like very. I was grooving. I was grooving for a while, and then the breakdown hit, and my groove went away. And initially, I was like, I kind of want like the beat to still be going. Like I'm not ready to stop grooving, but then I kind of got it. So I don't really know. I think that is what this track is. It's interesting. It's kind of surprising that it goes from such a heavy groove. But that's what makes this track this track. So I don't think I have a problem with it. Yeah, a little all over the place. I'm kind of on the fence as to whether I think that it shouldn't be like that or not. Like usually I would say it's a little bit too all over the place, but I don't know. I think it kind of works in this situation. So I don't know if I have any real notes on this. It sounds pretty dope. It might be the mix might be a little muddy. Yeah, like maybe you could pull a little bit out of that 300 hertz mud range, but like, I don't know. I think it's pretty dope. I think it's a good song. I feel like it's probably AI vocals, but I could be wrong about that. And even if they are AI vocals, they kind of sound like they're not trying to hide the fact that they're AI vocals. You know what I mean? So I'm not too upset about it if they are AI vocals, because like somebody said, it sounds like GLaDOS. Like yeah. It's not trying to be like, hey, let's take the spot of a real singer and pretend that this is a real singer, but now we don't have to hire a singer. Now it's like, I want this robotic voice on my track, and I like the way it sounds. So anyway, I don't know. I think it's very cool, dude. I'm sorry I don't really have any notes for you, but I think you're doing a great job. All right, let's move on to this one. And I know I got to go grab a few more tracks here, so I'll do that while we listen. This one is Camo. I don't know how to say that. Gloves Tact Hyperflip. So sample challenge. Okay, here we go.
If you think you know the answer, don't ask me. If you feel like fucking drowning, don't tell me. When you haven't seen yourself in a few weeks, when you're crying on your bedroom floor to me.
Yeah, okay, so this is pretty cool so far. I mean, it's only like a minute and a half long. Is that supposed to be that short, or is this just like an idea? Because I kind of feel like dun 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 dun. When you keep going between those two notes, dun 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 dun, dun dun dun. Duh. I feel like I don't feel like it's resolving ever. And maybe it could resolve after this drop section. I kind of feel like this whole drop, just because of the notes, is like, it feels like it's hanging us. It's like hanging us in tension. But I mean, for like hyper pop, which I believe is the style of this track, it's good. I like it.
Drowning, don't tell me. Haven't seen yourself in a few weeks.
Are you in the UK? Yeah, I don't know. I think this is cool. I think it's a cool idea, and you need to keep going with it. I know that this past two tracks I haven't really had any useful feedback on, but I mean, like, like this is very dense and compressed and distorted, but like that's like the style, right? So, and I do agree. Yeah, maybe that melody could come up a little bit more, because was digging the melody as well, but it's kind of in the mix a little too far, you know what I mean? So maybe bring that up and keep going, because it can't be a minute and a half long. We gotta vibe a bit more. And then if it could drop and hit the tonic, like the root note, the note that the key of the song is in, and like sit there, I think it would relieve the tension of continually going between those two notes in what you have for the current drop. So if it maybe does like more of like a not a trap style drop, but like more like sustaining that root note, that might feel like we're slipping into a nice bath after being toyed with those two notes. Okay, cool. That's what I got. Moving on. Johnny Gamble, Jello. Okay, so this is pretty cool. It's dark. It kind of reminds me of like maybe some sort of cyber priest warrior, like from the future, and he's got like a machine gun in the shape of a cross, and it shoots silver bullets, and he's hunting demons. That's kind of what this sounds like to me. I think what it's missing is like one little hooky thing. Like the melody is sick, especially like this melody that is at the end. But like even like a little vocal thing, or like doesn't have to be a big phrase or anything, just some little identity item, you know? I think that's mostly what I'm missing. Could be a stab of some kind, just something. You've got all this like chuggy, like cyberpunk kind of shit going on, right? And it all works well together, but I'm missing that one thing that kind of pokes out and says, hello, this is the thing that the song does, you know? Like even just a word, right? You know, blah, blah, blah. I know that it could sound kind of cheesy or cliche, you know, but there's a reason why it works. Or it could be a stab of some kind of cool, some sort, you know, something that just sticks out. Everything in this track all melts together nicely, and I feel like we need that one like identity piece. Okay. I'm looking at my internet, and I think I'm still online, but it's red, and we're green now. Hooray. Okay, that's what I think. I think, oh, the other thing I was going to ask, what's with this 192 kilobit per second line? You know what I mean? Like it's a 320. Yeah, it should be all right now. Anyway, it's a 320, but I see like 192, evidence of 192 throughout. Like this hard line that's running through. I'm wondering what that's about. What that's all about. Anyway, I think the track is sick. I would, like I said, I would try to find like some sort of identifier, you know, that maybe relates to the name of the track. Right now, I don't know if this name is like something that you have that you love, or if this is just kind of like a, you know, a whip name, which we all have. But yeah, something that's just like, hey, you know that song that goes, insert thing that you should come up with. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Ice Kayab, don't know if I should call this glitch hop or complextro. Well, I certainly cannot help you with that because I don't know anything about genres. Here we go. Okay. I feel like some of your wubs are playing the wrong note, maybe? Like, there was one here that caught my ear. Yeah. You know, like... So I would go through and try to, I mean, like, first of all, a lot of these wubs are very, very like 2000s wub sounds. And if that's what you're going for, then great, you have nailed that. But it certainly reminds me of. It definitely reminds me of like, yeah, like 2008. And there's a couple notes in the melody that bother me. Like, it's almost a strong melody, but there's a few times where I'm just like, oh, that is not where I expected that to go at the end of that line. So I don't know. If you're feeling a little unsure about the melody, I would maybe play around with it. It almost sounds like it's supposed to land and resolve at certain times, but it just plays like some like two semitones away from where I'm expecting it to. So the melody feels a little random to me. I like that you put this like little melodic thing at the end of these measures. I think that's a cool thing to do. It throws back to like the melodic breakdown section, so it ties the drop section and the breakdown sections together nicely. So I think that's well done. The little plucky thing, the melody in that sounds fine. It's this. Let me find it. Where was it? I can't even find it now. Yeah, I don't know. I think you could do better. I think there's a few notes that are just a little sour. They're all in the right key. There's no real wrong notes, but just the way the melody flows doesn't sound like something I would play or like a keyboard player would play. It's kind of sounds like somebody clicked in notes. And that's okay to click in notes. I click in notes all day long, or I used to. But you got to give the illusion that it could be played by somebody who knows how to play the keyboard. Anyway, I think it's a fun track. It sounds kind of dated in terms of the sound design, but if that's what you're after, you're kind of going for that, early 2000s glitch hop, complextro chiptune thing, then you have nailed it. Okay, next up we got Felix Archive Wide Awake.
I'm wide awake, want to fly when I still am on. I'm still held up on you. I'm still held up on you. Let him, I want to fly with you, but I can't. I want to fly with you, but I can't. Please don't. find a day. Come with me, fly away. Help me to find a day. Come with me, fly away. Help me to find a
So, like, I dig the uniqueness of this production. I think that you should spend a little bit more time tuning your vocals. I think that, what's up, Logan? I think that the vocals, they sound like they're going into auto-tune, but auto-tune sounds like it's having a tough time deciding which note to snap it to. So I've given this advice many times, and I still think that it's better to tune your vocals with something like Melodyne manually, and then if you want that auto-tune effect, then you can send the tuned vocals into auto-tune so that auto-tune knows what it's doing. It's not guessing like, ooh, is this supposed to be a C or C sharp, you know, and then it goes blah, 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 and it picks maybe the wrong note. So I think going through and like tuning your vocals with, I would use Melodyne. I don't know if that's in the budget. I don't know if there's alternatives. I've never really looked because I just use Melodyne. But something that you can manually go in, and as a human and as a person, as the person who wrote the track and melody, you can decide how your vocal melody ultimately lands. Then use autotune as an effect after that.
It's a fire in my soul, but I see you, I get cold. I'm still waiting on my phone, I can't stand it on my own. It's a fire in my soul, but I see you, I get cold. I'm still waiting on my phone, I can't stand it on my own. Take your time today, cause they just fly away. They don't care, gotta stay wide awake, cause they just fly away. Take your time today.
I think that the production is sick. Like the beat is really good.
Today, cause they just fly away. They don't care, gotta stay wide awake, cause they just fly away. Help me to find a day. Come with me, fly away. Help me to find a day. Come with me.
And I'm not suggesting that you you do like perfectly tuned vocals. But I do think that these vocals could use a little bit of loving in the pitch department to make them. There's some flat notes, and I just think it would be better if you tighten it up a bit.
Help me to find a day. Come with me, fly away. Help me to find a day. Come with me, fly away. Help me to find a day. Come with me, fly away. Help me to find a day. Come with me, fly away. It's a fire in my soul, but I see you, I get
So like specifically when you say soul,
fire in my soul, but
the soul is quite sharp. So like just bringing that down to the right note would be so. That was the biggest note that I noticed was the soul.
fire in my soul, but I see you, I get cold. I'm still waiting on my phone, I can't stand it on my own. It's a fire in my soul, but I see you, I get.
Yeah. Anyway, I think those are my main notes for this track, is that you don't need to make the pitch perfect. It doesn't have to be like, super Katy Perry or anything like that. But I think that this could be a little tighter in terms of the pitch. And yeah, the rest is dope. Okay. Moving on. Electric guitar. Gah. All right. So the drop is very cool. The kick is kind of not coming through at all. Like this is a kick right here. I'm not really hearing the kick. I think there is side chaining, but I don't. The kick is just like a little thud underneath all the sound design synth work. So I'd probably get the kick because it's breaking up the rhythm of the track. You know, like not having that kick, and even the snare. Well, you know what it is? I think there's some stuff happening in your master limiter because every once in a while there'll be a snare that's like super loud, like right here. So like listen to this snare. And then I think it must be here. And then like this. I know it might be. Hold on, let me just cut it apart so it's easier to demonstrate because I know it's just kind of like noise right now. Is that the snare? No. Okay, there we go. So here's. It's so hard to demonstrate. I think I don't know if you're side chaining to your snare. So if you're not, I would do that. And if you are, I would look into your master bus and see what's happening during these moments because there's just the kick and the snare are both, they're not consistently up front. They kind of, sometimes the kick and the snare are like nice and loud, but other times they're buried underneath a lot of the wubs and stuff. So I would look into your side chaining to the kick and the snare, and then I'd also look into your master bus and see if there's any huge like gain reduction stuff happening when some of these synths are happening. Because another thing that could be occurring is you've got a bunch of different synths and maybe one of them is like really, really, really loud and you don't realize it, but when it hits the master limiter, it's causing the limiter to duck down. So what you could do is take all of your, like I suggested a few tracks ago, take all of your synths and wubs and stuff and bus them together into one bus and then do some dynamics management on that one bus so that you're clipping off some of the really loud stuff or even just that may tell you if say you took your 10, say you had 10 different synths in this part, you send them all to one bus and you put a limiter on the bus and most of the time the limiter isn't doing anything, but then every once in a while it'll have this huge gain reduction and you find out, oh my God, that one synth is like 10 decibels louder than everything else. So I feel like there may be some of that happening. But at any rate, your kick and your snare should always be consistently cutting through the mix, and that's usually done with side chaining and proper mastering. The other thing I'm noticing is that there's no real central melody. There's kind of a lot of dingly dangly things that are all kind of cool and you know, kind of progressive, kind of rock-ish, a lot of delayed out arpeggiated things happen. There's lots of cool shit happening, don't get me wrong, but I don't think I heard a central melody. You know what I mean? Like, if you take this breakdown for an example, we got lots of cool stuff transpiring, trying to say happening less. There's a lot of cool stuff occurring in the track, but there's no central like do 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 do, you know, like a melody, something that's memorable. There's just a lot of really nice sounding items. What's another word for transpiring? Existing. So I don't know, and I feel like this is a note that I give to many people. But to me, like, you've created again, using this breakdown as an example, you've created like a really nice soundscape for there to be a melody. Like, there's nothing to say. There's lots of room for a melody to go there. And if it was a melody that the rest of the track leaned on, then all of a sudden that is the identity of the song. You can have lots of cool sound design. You can have lots of cool ear candy and drops and drums and stuff. But at the end of the day, if you listen to any track that and I don't know, maybe I'm generalizing here, but I bet if you listen to some of your favorite songs, there will be a central melody or melodic theme throughout the track, right? So I don't know. You could just basically play this breakdown and try to write something like on the keyboard, you know? Another note while I'm doing this is I don't really personally like the way you're starting your drops. Like, they kind of just like blah, here's the drop. You know, it kind of like just like falls out of the mix. There's no like, this is the start of the drop. It kind of just evolves into, now we're in the drop. You're like, you know, you're doing like some like fancy magician thing. And I don't know. I think it would be more impactful if it was more impactful. What's the tempo? 110? Negative 100? Close. Yeah, I can move yours up, cheese. It wasn't 110. It's like almost 100. Thank you for suggesting all of the numbers in the range that I'm currently working in. $102. There we go. So if I just do this, and then I do this, and then I do this, and I do... Why isn't that working? Interesting. Let's try different... okay, here we go. So, okay, so it's in F. So let me just I'll just noodle for a second here. I have really bad delay on the keyboard because of what I got my latency set to. So I'm just going to click in some notes. I don't know, but you know what I mean? Like now I'm not saying that's a good melody, but like something now it's got long note, 2 short notes and a long note, 2 short notes and a long note, 2 short notes and a long note. Like there's like a structure, you know what I mean? And now we're creating a bit more of a melody. I'm not saying this is probably a good one, but what goes through my head that's a great question. I wish I knew. I don't know. I just fuck around. Usually I play around on the key. I just like play around till something will come to me, and then I'll elaborate, and then that leads me to like another idea, and I elaborate. But it's hard for me to play it on the keyboard right now because I have like the latency so high. Yeah, I just noodle around, and sometimes I'll hum it and figure something out. But yeah, that's basically what I do. Everybody's different. Sometimes you get like a good chord progression. You're like, oh, and it just something will come to you. But most of the time, I'm just fucking around, and then I find something and I refine it, and then that leads me to the next idea, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just try to let it happen. Anyway, that's what I think about that song. Thank you for sending. Next up, we got Cloudy Parallels and LV Villain in the Story Inmate remix with an egregious amount of headroom. And I don't use that word lightly. Okay, that lead sound is, again, egregious. It's very pokey. It's loud, and it's in that danger frequency range. Another thing, you've got a lot of stuff happening at the same time. Same time. Wow, am I an emo singer? At the same time, and it's making it so we can't really listen to any one thing. So you have your vocals going, you've got this lead going, you've got like crazy double kick, like heavy metal drums going, and it's all a lot on top of each other. Especially the vocals and the lead together are not going to work because they're both trying to be the main character and they're fighting each other for my attention. But also, a lot of the time, if you're going to have like extremely heavy drums and like rocking out, with this style of music, you usually separate the vocally parts into the breakdowns, and then you're more of the instrumental and the drops. And of course, this is generalizing, and there are examples of it going the other way. But for the most part, you're going to have an easier time if you dedicate sections of the track to being more melodic, gentler vocals, build us up. And then when we're rocking out, it's more about the drums and the sound design, you know, the drums and the whoops. And that's like basically like the drop section, right? In this situation, I don't even know where the drop starts or if it has started yet because there's just like a whole lot of stuff happening on top of each other. Because like I can't really hear the vocals at all. I also think that it's very, very limited. Like I think your mastering is a bit aggressive. It's okay. Hold on. Let me try this. I feel like a lot of your problems may be caused by your mastering, because to me it sounds like you have some really, really loud synths, like that big kind of wall of sound synth, the big pad, bright pad thing. And to me, it sounds like it is just going into the master bus and absolutely demolishing everything else. Like I would take your mastering off of the track and mix it without any mastering and try to get each individual element to sit in its own spot in the mix and not fight each other, first of all, because there's some things you can't fix with mixing. You will never be able to make that lead and those vocals go together. 40% hearing loss. Oh, that's rough. But I mean, humans are amazing at how well we can adapt. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think that taking your mastering off and trying to not be loud. Don't try to be loud until the end. You know what I mean? Because when you try to take something that isn't mixed well and you just try to make it as loud as possible, it's not going to go well ever. So don't worry about being loud. Get it to sound good and then get it to sound loud. Okay, let's keep going. Yeah, there's just like, again, here in this section, there just sounds like there's so much stuff on top of each other. It kind of sounds like it's getting a bit atonal. Like it sounds like there are notes in there that don't, it just kind of sounds like doing one of these on a piano where it plays all the notes. And I think it's because you have so many elements that may have a bunch of reverb, delay on them. So you might, switch from one chord to the next chord, but there's a bunch of delay and reverb causing that previous chord to bleed over on top of the next chord. And you get that kind of like playing a piano with your arm sound where it's atonal and kind of noise. But it's hard for me to say because I do really think that your mastering is really dicking it. Yeah, again, here, I think going back to like how some things you can't fix in the mix, there's like the guitar and like the crazy drums and the wubs and the vocals, and there's like a swell kind of reverse sounding thing in here. All these elements, you might find that just deleting certain elements out of certain sections altogether may be the best bet. Sometimes just deleting stuff is like the best thing you can do. And trying to be a little bit more strategic in your arrangement. Like I was saying before, this section has just nice pads and vocals, and there's a little bit of a drum build up happening. Build, 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 build. Now we have the wubs and the drops. A lot of the times, less is more. It's just, this kind of sounds like you threw everything at the master and said, deal with it. You know what I mean? So yeah, my advice to you, I think that there's lots of cool stuff in here, but it's hard to appreciate any of the cool elements because they're being stepped on by a bunch of other cool elements. And then you got a big cool element stampede and everybody's dying and it's Black Friday all of a sudden, So I would go back, simplify, reduce it down to the bare components and slowly build it up. Slowly add elements as needed, and then worry about the master. And I'm not sure why you gave us 87 decibels of headroom. I'm not sure if that was intentional or I don't know why. It's not that it makes a huge difference right now. It doesn't change any of my notes, but I'm wondering if that may also maybe was not. Yeah, maybe something happened in your master bus. Maybe your threshold got pulled way down or something. And I don't know. There are a few questions for you to dig into, but yeah, I think just turning off your mastering, simplifying each section to only the elements that it needs to accomplish what you're trying to do, and not throwing everything all at the same time is going to be your move forward. All right, cool. Thanks for sending. Thank you for popping in on your lunch break. All right. Let's check out Enter Veil by... Oh, sorry. Cheese had to leave, so let's do Cheeses next. There we go. Okay. I wonder, like, for this, for the start and even for this, I'd probably, like, chill your kick drum out. You could high pass it or shorten it or something like that. Like, don't give us the full kick right off the bat. I would, because it kind of sticks out a little bit, like it's all on its own. If you look at this waveform, it's like kick drum. You know? So maybe like maybe chill out on the kick drum for the first bit and wait until like the rest of the track is ready to start moving along, and then introduce the full kick drum. It's not always the move. Sometimes you can start right off with the big kick, but I just kind of feel like I'm listening to a kick drum with some background noise. So yeah, Aiden, but you can check it out on YouTube. Yeah, I mean, like, this is a cool start. It's it sounds like it's a good start. I think that you need vocals or a melody or something. But you already know that. I don't know. I think it's I don't really have any notes besides maybe like the kick drum, you know, chilling it out at the start just so that it doesn't kind of stick out like a sore thumb as much. And then figure out some vocals, and it really is like the start of something, because it doesn't have any real defining sounds to it. It has nice chords, has nice drum groove, it has a nice shuffle, like everything that this entire track is built up of supporting roles, you know, and there's nothing that sets this aside from just like the start of any of the other progressive kind of tracks that you've sent in. So trying to figure out what the identity of the song is and whether that's vocals or synth or whatever. But it right now it doesn't really have it doesn't have an identity. It has like a container to put an identity into. So I would move forward. But the mix sounds good. The master's sounding good. Like it all sounds good. Just doesn't really have any intellectual property in it, I guess, is, like, I guess that's really what it is, isn't it? Because the chord progression isn't necessarily intellectual property. Like you can't copyright a chord progression. There's nothing, it's kind of funny. It's almost like a litmus test. Like there's nothing in this track that you could copyright, you know? As I can't believe I've never thought of that before. Like that's kind of like the ultimate litmus test to whether or not you have like a song or not. Is there anything that's copyrightable in this? No, it's chords and drums, like so that tells you where you need to go next. What you have is good, but it also isn't copyrightable. Yay, we figured out a new thing that I can say all the time. Sick. All right. Yeah, that's what I think, dude. I think it sounds nice and gentle and beautiful. So keep writing. Okay, now we're going to move on to Enter Vale or Enter Vale, depending on how spicy you want to be. It's by Harn, I guess. Here we go. Yeah, so it's in A sharp. Like it's so low. That bass, that the root note is so low, it's like inaudible. So it ends up sounding like I'm hearing the click of the kick and I can kind of feel that there's like sub energy down there, but I can't really hear the note for the most part. And then you go up to like when you play the higher notes and all of a sudden the sub is like, whoa. Yeah, we got some sub there. I think you're going to have a hard time writing this in A sharp. Like if I were you, I'd put it up to C sharp or D. And then when you're sitting on the root note, which is kind of like, yeah, this is the main note, it'll be audible because it'll be a C sharp or a D. Like, it'll still be low. Like C sharp is getting down there, but A sharp is inaudibly low unless you go up an octave and then it's too high. So you're kind of in that awkward, like A sharp, like A sharp, B, like those are keys that writing bass music is challenging in because you want that deep sub, but that's too deep. So then you got to go up an octave and that's not deep enough. So it's like this awkward middle ground. So if you're still early on in the writing of this track, which it seems like you are, I would just try changing the key to D, and it's gonna sound weird at first. You gotta you gotta expect that as soon as you change it, it's gonna feel wrong. You're like, oh, this isn't right. But give it a sec, try to get used to it in the different key. And one thing you can do too is like, this isn't really a great method, but just like for demonstration purposes. So if we're going from A sharp, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go up 4 semitones. So let's do this. See, now I can hear that note, and all of a sudden the kick drum feels less awkward because I hear the click, but I hear the corresponding bottom end of it as well. So let's do a comparison. We'll go back to the original key. And then we go up 4 semitones. Like it's almost objectively better. I'm not sure how you could make the argument that it's better at A sharp, because those, maybe like on a festival speaker system, you would obliterate people's kidneys or something. I'm not really sure, but I would highly recommend trying it at D instead of A sharp. Yeah, I put my hand on my subwoofer for the A sharp, and I can almost count it. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like it's like, okay, yeah. Let's hear this at D. So like the sound design is dope. It's kind of like Mr. Bill, sort of like AU5. It's that kind of world, and there's a lot of great sound design stuff. I think the second drop is much stronger than the first drop. I would probably base the first drop on this. I would drop with this style drop, and then maybe use some of this stuff as like a B section to a drop, or maybe incorporate some of it into like a breakdown or a build up or something. But like this second drop is, I think, quite a bit better than your first drop. And I think putting it to D is the move. I think you should at least save it as a new project and then go and rip it all apart and tune everything so that you're up into D, and all of a sudden it's, like you're going to be able to hear that root note for the main note, which is the key of the song. So I would try that. And then again, you've got lots and lots of ear candy, lots and lots of atmosphere. I'm not really hearing anything copyrightable. I'm not necessarily hearing a melody or a hook of any sort. And I don't know. I don't know that there's any situation where not having something memorable in a track is a good thing. Like I don't think there's any downside to having like a little hook or a melody especially in these big breakdown sections where you're doing all kinds of atmospheric stuff. You could have like a melody, and then maybe at the melody, the last little piece of the melody, you could throw it in the drop every once in a while, and now that's a bit more of a song. Okay, that's what I think though. I think that you've got more than enough sound design and atmosphere and ear candy. You've killed it on that front, but now it's time to try to fill out the rest of the track. Cool. All right. This one is called Thing, which is a really great title. And we all have our great titles, don't we? Here we go. So like this is really cool. The 124 kilobit per second honestly kind of maybe adds to that like PlayStation 1 sort of aesthetic. But I don't think it's the move. I think you make it as high quality as you can, and then you downgrade it in the mix or whatever. You don't leave it up to the MP3 encoder to figure out how lo-fi you want it. I mean, like this to me sounds like I'm running around in a foggy what's that called? What's that game called? You know, the PS1 horror game that is like ubiquitous. Silent Hill. This is very Silent Hill. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if I have really many notes for this. I think that, like, I think that you should make it a full quality, you know, at least 320 or a wave or something, and maybe that was just a whoopsie doodles on your part, or maybe that was intentional. I'm not sure. To me, it sounds like a lo-fi kind of, like I said, PS1 style track, and I dig it. I think it's cool. Maybe some of the sections you could thin out some of the, you know, remove some of the elements. I kind of feel like once we got into the meat of it, it just kind of like was a bit stagnant because it just kind of did the same thing with the same elements and just slowly evolved over time. It might be cool to you could do that, but at certain moments you could like pull out like one of those, like there's like this almost choir or like female vocal thing that's in there. At least it sounds like a female vocal. Maybe pull that out. And now you could maybe replace it with something, or, you know, have a few more moments. I feel like if anything, that's the only thing this track is missing is like more moments. But I understand not wanting to break up like the groove. You don't want to like always be starty stoppy, but I don't know. I think more moments would be good. Besides that, it's a very cool like concept piece, I guess. Like it feels, yeah, PS1 horror game. Cool. All right. Easy peasy. Last couple, we got Hattori, I think, ID. Wow, that was nuts. Okay, I love the drop section. I wasn't in love with everything leading up to the drop section. I feel like in the real world, I wouldn't have made it to the drop. I think that it's and I understand that maybe that's okay, and maybe you're willing to sacrifice the weaklings like me. But it just took so long to get to something that was I don't know, because I don't wanna take away from, like, this section was cool, like, it was, it's almost like the THX sound sort of idea, but maybe if there was, like, some rhythm that came in at some point or I don't know, something to, like, hold my hand a little bit, like, "Don't worry, we're getting there," I kinda didn't have that feeling, I kinda wanted to, like, skip ahead, um, but then when it dropped, I was like it kinda threw me off that it dropped on the snare instead of the kick. That it took me a second to get into the groove because of that, and I don't know that there's really any benefit to holding off a quarter note as opposed to just dropping on the kick like we would expect, because it honestly just kinda threw me off and it delayed my head banging because I was like, "What's okay, that's the snare. Okay, now I get it." Like there was like I had to take a moment and understand as opposed to if it just dropped on the kick, that's what everybody expects. So if you wanna, defy everybody's expectations, then drop on the snare for sure, but I don't know that it's doing anything of value. The next note, and maybe the only other note that I have right now for this is I love the sound of the snare, but the utility of it isn't there. Like it's a crunchy sound that's underneath all of the other sounds. And I think that if you side chained to the snare and you had kind of like a short punchy snare layered with it so that it still had that normal punch of a snare drum, I think that would be better because I love the I love the dirtiness of the snare. It sounds dope, but it's not cutting through the mix because the crazy sound design is stepping on its feet. So I think you should sidechain to the snare, and if you are already, maybe more intensely. Like for example, right here. It doesn't sound like a, it sounds like a, and I think it should have a bit more of like a punch because the kick and the snare is what I'm nodding my head to. And if the snare isn't punching through the mix, then it's not really serving its purpose necessarily. So I wouldn't want you to change the sound of the snare, but I would either layer a punchier snare and sidechain harder to it, or do something similar so that that snare is really like the shit gets out of the way for it. Right now, it doesn't sound like your synths and sub are getting out of the way for the snare. It's just kind of like the snare's like fighting to get through. And I don't think it should sound that way. I think the snare should cut through clearly, loudly, and powerfully. All right, cool. That's what I think. I think it's sick. I think the drop is sick. I think it took a bit too long to get to something that led me to believe that it was going to be sick. And I think the snare should cut through harder. Cool. Thank you for sending. Very cool. Very cool. Cool. All right. Last one of the day. Zephyrinth. Some bullshit. I don't know, bro. Okay, well, I'm just going to imagine this was what mastering was, and then I charged you like $200. Okay, let's have a listen. Okay, so similar to the cheese note, I think, let's do this. I think this section is so kind of small and dinky, which is okay, but your kick drum still has like the deepness to it, and that implies that we're like trying to be loud, but it's not loud, so I would try something like this. Oh, it's not an AI voice, that's interesting. Like thin it out on purpose. I don't know. It just seems a little empty. Maybe you're still writing stuff for that. Let's move on. So Is this where we're arriving at? Is this the drop percent? So again, like, it's not obvious to me, you know. Let's keep going. I have to figure out how to explain what's in my head, and I'm not sure how to do that yet.
Listening to.
This feels like it's in a different key than the breakdown, or like the sec. Dun, 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 dun. So that sounds like it's in the key of, where's me serum? Sounds like it's in C. Yes, okay, so this little chip tune thing is in C major, right? But this... I guess it still is in C. Oh. Is it still in C? I don't know. There's something throwing me off about this. Hold on. Wow. I just opened Live Split and it broke my computer. Thank you, Live Split. Goodbye. So I just put it up an octave so I could listen to your bass a little bit more easily. No, it is in the same key, but there's just something about it that makes the two sections feel disconnected. This part's not in the same key. Wow. There it is. Yeah, it's that section's in D. So we went from C to D. That's what threw me off.
You're listening to.
Womp womp. That's a D, but we were in C. So what happens if I just take this and I make this unique and I put it down to C?
You're listening to.
I think it's better, but like it's so different. We go from this like chiptune thing into that. It's like the intro, the chiptune thing, and this drop section all are different songs to me. They all, I don't know what they share. The first two parts share the same key, so at least there's that. Oh, they all share the same tempo, but
You're listening to.
But yeah, it's just like there's not a whole lot of carryover from section to section, you know, like they feel very separated. I don't know what to suggest though, because even putting it down to C, because this might be like in a minor key now. Yeah, now we're in a minor key. So we went from C major to D minor.
You're listening to.
Yeah, okay, so I think that's the problem. I'm gonna throw it, but I think that's I think that's what's bothering me the most. Each individual section is kind of cool, but when you put them together, going from C major to D minor, yeah, that's D minor. That's C major. So you got to do something. There's got to be some sort of melodic overhaul of what's happening here. And then I understand the idea of like having a breakdown lead into a drop and maybe not having like maybe the drop is like drastically different and that's the idea of the track, like you're going for like a super contrasty thing. Like that's fine. But I feel like there's just not enough there's not enough musical elements that are tying each of these sections together. So, although I do like each individual section separately, I think it's like I think you should try to fix the key when it goes to that drop and tie the ideas together. And sometimes it's a tough call, but sometimes you're like, this just doesn't fit with the song, and maybe you could save it as a different project and build a whole other song out of it, because this section right here just doesn't feel like it ties into everything leading up to it. Okay, I'll listen to the rest. And yeah, Nakai, I'll grab yours, and then that'll be it. Yeah, like that's cool, but it just doesn't feel like it has anything to do with the rest of the track. And that blip, 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 blip might still be in C major. So there may be some conflicting keys. Like you might have some elements from back here. I don't know. Do an overhaul. Go through, pick out what you like about the track, and maybe discard the stuff that doesn't fit. Or repurpose it. But I don't know. Sorry, that wasn't the best feedback, but that's what I got for you. Okay, let's listen. That's present tense, listen. Future tense? Yeah, future tense. Let's future tense listen to Nakai Love. This will be the actual last one of the day. Holy. Here we go. Okay, I love everything except the fake guitar. Okay, this part is sick. I think what you should do though is you should tease in the dun 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 whatever the and I think the fake guitar, which is probably still fake guitar but with the distortion, sounds okay here because it almost sounds like a synth. But in the intro, it's supposed to be feeling authentic and intimate, and then the very easily discernible fake guitar plug-in sound, I would replace that with a real guitar or with like a synth or something that's not trying to sound like something it isn't, because that kind of takes away from the authenticity of it. But like, I really like when it drops. I think you should you should introduce that. I guess you kind of are. Yeah, you kind of are, but maybe it's not noticeable enough, because I didn't realize that you did until I re-listened to it. But it's it's sick. I think the drop just kind of came out of nowhere for me a little bit. So in this point, we have the vocals come in, but they don't really come in. Like I can't really hear the vocals. They're kind of buried under there. So you kind of, I think you're going to have to decide, do I want the vocals to be up front? And if I do, I might need to pull back a lot of elements and go for a cleaner sound so that the vocals have a chance of fighting. And if not, maybe the vocals don't go in this section. Because right now, it's kind of making the vocals feel unimportant because they are like they're underneath everything, right? So if something is underneath everything, doesn't sound very important, right? So yeah, that's what I'm thinking about this part. I'm thinking that the vocals are there, but they're not really there. They're just kind of there. Like maybe instead of putting the vocals there, you put the vocals here. And now this is a much more pleasant place for the vocals to live, right? And instead you come up with some variation of the drop so that it's not just the same thing 2 more times. So you come up with some other, maybe it's a different synth or different instrument doing the lead sound, or maybe there's a new element in there, something to switch it up, but you save the vocals for the chill sections because the vocals are chill. And it's kind of like trying to get an airy, soft jazz female vocalist to sing over top of like a heavy metal band. Like it's going to be challenging, right? So instead, if you save the vocals for like the breakdowns and the melodic sections where it's not quite so then they might have a better chance of surviving in the mix. Or like right here, maybe take the guitar plucky thing out, because I feel like we've had that pretty much the whole time. Take the guitar plucky thing out and put the vocals here instead. But those sections are like bang on. I love it when it comes in with that. It's very like emotional rock out. But yeah, I think that the vocals that you have here would just make more sense here. And getting rid of the guitar hooky thing is going to be a good thing, because I feel like it's being a little overused and it's going to start getting a bit abrasive or a bit annoying if you use it that much. So if you save it for the drops and maybe tease it in the build up to the drop, I think that's going to be a much better way of arranging it. Now in that little section there, you got like the color base thing going. I don't think I mean the color base might work there, but it's underneath like so much thickness that it just kind of sounds like noise underneath. Like I feel like if you want to do like a color base thing there, maybe have it jarring and you pull out everything and you have and then you're back into like the big bass, right? Because if you have that big kind of wall of sound bass on top of the color base sounds, it kind of defeats the purpose, I think. But yeah, sick track. I really do think that even replacing that fake guitar with a piano, something that's just a bit more believable, would really drive the authenticity home. But otherwise, sick track. Hope that helps. All right, cool. I love all of you guys. This is me for a second. Thank you for being patient. I know I've been away for a while, but it's good to be back in the studio and listening to your stuff. So I may start doing it on a different day because Fridays, I'm realizing, are challenging for me because I'm usually away on the weekends and I usually leave on Fridays. So that's why I did it early today because I have to go to Fredericton for the weekend, which is a different city. Anyway, I hope you have a good weekend. I'll see you next week. K-bye. Muting the microphone.